Welcome back, Immortals. Picking up from where we left off in part 1 of the early game, let's jump back into the sandals of Augustus leading the brave Roman people. We had just evicted some farmers in order to take a nearby marble tile in the last video. A few more turns has gone by and we have met Lafayette of the Greek and coming up on our next research choice. Now, sailing will require fewer turns, but as in Civ 6, you can only work plots in a 3-tile radius from your center, so I won't be pulling in fish anytime soon. I'm going to go with writing to unlock each specific building, the library, jumpstart my science, and pick up a wonder option. Having just met Lafayette, he too also wants to start a local festival, but again, I don't want to spend my influence either supporting or rejecting it, so I'm just going to choose the middle of the road that I don't have to spend anything. In fact, I get 2 more influence because I want to start befriending those independent powers, city-states. And lo and behold, just after doing that, I found another goody hut and I was able to choose a decision that got me a bunch of happiness, probably as much or more than Lafayette is going to get for that diplomatic action that he engaged with. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we're going to see that that pushed me really close to my first celebration in 2 turns. Thus is the fickle nature of fate and Civ 7. My first civic is complete, giving me a new social policy called Survey, a wonder option, and a free army commander. I'm not going to change out my policies. I'm doing just fine with my scout as he is so far. Now I need to choose another civic to research. Let me explain why you see discipline again. You can drill down into civics to unlock masteries, essentially giving you additional options tied to the parent civic. In this case, since I'm going early war, I want that +3 to combat against independent powers to bully them around a little bit. And with that, our first celebration. We love the Tyrant Day. Aw, so sweet of my minions. Since we went with despotism as a form of government, we can choose between science and a military production boost. I'm going to go with science since I want to cover the land with legions as fast as possible. Also, this celebration gives us a new policy slot. Since I don't have anything other than survey, I'll slot that in to supercharge my adventurous and almost dead for some reason scout. Now look here, my first army commander, a unique one for Rome called Legatus. Probably pronouncing that wrong, sorry. These special units are insanely powerful with a ton of abilities that you'll get through leveling, which we'll skim over until we get his first promotion. All you need to know right now is that he can't attack on his own, does have a marginal defensive rating and hit points, and is largely used to avoid the traffic jams of Civ games of the past, allowing you to pack up units and drop them off on the front. I still need to cook him up an army, so I'm going to keep him close by. As my scout has been on the prowl, I met my first independent power. As I'm not ready for war, I'm going to use that influence that I've been hoarding to start befriending them. This is a mercantile people, and they are currently hostile towards me, hence the red border. I'm going to use my influence to start pretending that I'm nice, and I can keep spending that influence to speed up the process, something that you may want to consider if someone else is trying to beat you to the punch bowl. Alright, so we just unlocked our first age-specific building, the library, which can get the benefit of adjacency bonuses. So I guess we're gonna have to start to tackle that whole ball of yarn. Look, I love games that are easy to get into but difficult to master, but I personally find the adjacency mechanic on the messy side and needlessly confusing. Let me start to break it all down the best way I can as far as I know it right now, and by the way, right now would be a very good time to dog-ear this part of the video for future reference. When it comes to buildings given to you from the technology tree, think of it like this. Science and production buildings like resources. Food and gold buildings like coasts and navigable rivers. And culture and happiness buildings like mountains and natural wonders. All types of buildings like buildable wonders. Buildings from civics which are used to create your unique quarters get adjacency bonuses based on the types of buildings built next to them as well as wonders. For example, to make Rome's unique quarter, the Forum, I need a Temple of Jupiter which gets a +1 culture bonus for having a happiness building next to it, and a Basilica which gets an influence adjacency bonus from having a culture building next to it. Okay. We touched on a term called a quarter. That is an urban district with 2 age-specific buildings of the current age in it. Quarters will sometimes give you some extra benefits, so keep that in mind. Lastly, we mentioned in the first video that when you transition from one age to the next, age-specific buildings will lose their adjacency bonus and special modifiers. Okay, let me give you an example. Here is another game in the exploration age. In the city of Puteoli, I still have a barracks from the age of antiquity in one of my urban districts, which is only providing its base +2 production, meaning it is not benefiting from being next to a horse resource. Moreover, if you look at the entry, the barracks grants a 10% production bonus for land-based military units, and if you do the math, where the city is currently making 22 production and giving the total production needed for units, that bonus no longer applies. The building in this era that does the same thing is called the Armorer, which I could replace building it over the barracks. This is called overbuilding. Typically, your cities are going to get pretty crowded, so you're going to be overbuilding pretty often, especially when that is the same type of building to get those bonuses back. However, if you're really trying to squeeze every last drop of a commodity like production food or whatever, maybe you decide to keep the ones from the previous eras. Okay, now returning to our game, I'd like to point something out. Our scout died, and all we got was this little toast message that's really easy to overlook. No longer will combat appear on the main screen when it's not your turn. I guess too many people complained about how long this took, but I'll tell you, I hate this. Because when there's major combat, I want to see what all shook out. Instead of getting slapped across the face seeing that the battlefield massively changed, I lost a bunch of units, and I'm trying to piece together exactly what happened reading through all those toasts. Up next, I'm going to place an altar here. Hopefully what I'm planning to do actually pans out, and whammo, we get a notice that a codex has been added to a slot. If you played Civ 6, you'll find this familiar. It's the same Great Works mechanic. You'll gather things like relics and Great Works. You'll need a settlement with a slot to place them, and when placed, that settlement will get a bonus, in this case +2 science. It's easy to miss these, by the way. Several times I had a bunch of unslotted works that were doing nothing for who knows how long. Religion now. Since we put the altar down, it's time to decide on a pantheon. In the Age of Antiquity, this is super simple, as most bonuses will simply apply to your settlement as long as it has an altar. That's pretty much it. Since I'm playing as a jerk this time around, I'm going to go with God of War to speed up military. In the next age, religion comes in a bit more, but I'm gonna tell you, the whole religion subgame is unfinished, forgettable, and entirely boring. One of my bigger disappointments with Civ 7. Alright, now that we have our warrior, I'm gonna pack him up with his commander so we can take revenge for our fallen scout and start leveling up the Legatus. We found someone who is hostile, and we need to get our troops some action to up our leader. I'm gonna unpack my one warrior unit and see if I can corner this bad guy. The turn ends and the scout is still next to my warriors. Leaders no longer grant bonuses by virtue of just being there unless they have that promotion, but all have some basic abilities that grant a small buff to an action. Coordinated attack, for example, grants all melee units in range a +2 bonus, and they all attack that target. As you can see here, after the attack, the leader gets a bit of XP. Another important point, your leader doesn't have to be next to the action in order to command units and get XP. Here, the scout tried to run away. I was able to use the coordinated attack action, have my warriors hunt them down and waste them, and still get the XP for it. Okay, let's quickly return to adjacency bonus. The reason I sprawled the way I did was because I wanted to supercharge my science. Remember, science buildings love resources. And guess what? In this tile over here, there's that gold, marble, and camels to the southeast, granting +3 adjacency bonus, which doubles the base science yield for the library. Okay, we covered quite a bit here, so I'm going to pause part 2 right here. We talked about adjacency bonuses and how insanely confusing and weird it is, at least as compared to the other Civ games. A little bit of combat, unit commanders, leaders, and a little bit of religion, and kind of how I don't think that that's been fully baked yet. But anyways, please like, share, follow, anything if you want to continue to get some of these tips as we continue on this extraordinary journey with Augustus through the ages.